I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Jon Collier. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
I'm doing well, thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure to connect with you, Jon. What part of the world are you in right now?
East Coast of the United States.
All right. And which of your talents do you believe is responsible for us connecting at this time?
Well, the podcast that we've been working on here for about 6 months now, a news podcast that is a little bit different here in America. We're very divided politically, but it's a very neutral, informative podcast.
Yeah, tell us more. I got to listen to it. I find it intriguing, and I'm not in the U.S.
Well, it kind of started out of frustration on my part. Things are very politically divided here, and I listen to podcasts incessantly all day long. The job that I have allows me to kind of mentally veg out as I do my work. However, one of the things that frustrated me was the fact that I wanted to stay informed without being told what to think. So there used to be a radio program here in the U.S. for many years, but the broadcaster passed away a number of years back. It was very neutral. Just you could listen to it, a pleasant listen to, and the whole idea was just to find out what's going on, and you could form your own opinions. People are intelligent enough to be able to know what they think and believe in, and that was someone telling them. So that's kind of what launched the podcast. I could not find anything like it, so I decided to do it myself.
So who did you learn that from? That get up and do it if someone else isn't doing it type of attitude?
I would say my mother. I've never been someone who's this particular thing of broadcasting is completely out of my wheelhouse as far as abilities that I've done in the past. However, she always told me you never know unless you try. So I decided just to give it a try. And news has always been kind of a hobby of mine. I always have stayed up with what's going on around me. And now I'm turning that hobby into, I guess you could say, a bigger hobby.
I like the delivery of the news and the format that represented what seems to be your personality. So I'm listening to the news, and it's really amazing the things you remember, right? Like things like what is going on in North Korea with their complaints to, like, we're just doing what I remember here, right, quickly. So the things that are happening with North Korea complaining to the UN, right? But
Correct.
what sticks though is like the guy who, it was a guy or was it a gal? So he was riding down the highway on the horse, right?
Correct. There's so much that goes on around us. So much of the news is negative. So I really try to divide it into about anywhere from 18 to 20 topics a day. And I will touch on the headlines, what's going on across the world, the important things, the big things. And I only do that in about 3 to 4 minutes time. I'll touch on politics. I'll touch on things going on in Europe and North Korea and around the world, the headlines there. And then I skip over to things that people will find amusing, you know, like the man who was attempting to mow the highway in Florida. There's so many interesting things around us, and there's no need to constantly dwell on the negative. So I always include humor in the broadcast because people need to laugh. People need to know about things that are going around. Yes, but life can't be always negative and depressing. So I always, in every single broadcast, will look for humorous things and interesting things, whether it be in technology or in business, because so much is happening in technology right now. So I look for these things to keep people informed, not just on the negative headlines.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for 6 months now, a bit over 6 months, yeah?
That's correct.
Yeah. Why will you continue?
First off, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. Progress is slow, but I am seeing progress. I'm seeing more people listen to it on a weekly basis. And as long as it continues to do that, I'll continue to do it because I really do thoroughly enjoy not only researching it, but telling the story and letting people draw their own conclusions about here are the facts, here's what's really going on. And anyone who really seems to start listening to the podcast pretty much stays with it.
Yeah.
Once they start listening, they become a permanent listener.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I'm the 12-minute guy, and your podcast is just enough minutes for me as well, right? So I definitely like that format of it. And
Well, it's made just. I wanted to keep in mind someone who's commuting to work. They don't have time to do all the research, and they don't want to listen to commentary for an hour. So I deliberately keep it 10 at the max, maybe someday to 15 minutes, but never any time longer. Just enough for someone to stay very well informed on everything that's going on in 10 to 15 minutes time and make it enjoyable.
Well, tell me, John, one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
Over the last 3 years, I'm also a musician. And so music has been something I've done consistently for the last 30 years.
Wow. What instrument do you play?
Piano. I was trained classically. And so that is one thing that I've never given up. I do also some composing, some writing for some small venues and some private contracts on the side. And that is one thing that I've done consistently as well.
That's good. I just had, so your podcast conversation is going to fall right after Greg Friel, who's also a musician as well. Pretty amazing stuff, how things connect. How does it make you feel when you're before the keys?
Honestly, there's one place I'm always completely at home. And it's a very, very relaxing. I can just set everything else aside when I'm just playing for my own benefit. It's very relaxing.
Why would you suggest someone out there that's listening do something like that? Like have that intermission in their life, if you would, that relaxing opportunity, even if it's not the piano.
Well, of course, I always encourage anyone to pick up a musical instrument. The one thing that I have heard over the last 20 years, if I had $1 for every person who said this to me, I'd be a millionaire, that they wished they had taken a musical instrument or taken music education. It just, I think every person should give it a try because again, it is so, not just a relaxing, but it helps. It's a great escape.
Well, amazing audience. We are live with Jon Collier. Again, you could check out his podcast. Some amazing stuff going on there. It's the Jon Collier News Report, right? Definitely check that out. You stream on iTunes and everywhere that Libsyn pops it out, right? The host.
That is right.
Yeah, that's wonderful. John, let's switch gears for a moment now. Let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. John, what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest memory, I really don't say that I would have a distinct one as much as in general of growing. I grew up on a huge 700-acre farm in the mountains in the south. And that is my earliest memory of helping with chores on the farm.
Intriguing. How old do you think you were?
4, 5.
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
I don't know. We were all raised with a very, very strong work ethic. And because of the nature of the farm and because the nature of everything was, I think it's translated into my earlier adulthood as a can-do attitude. You just make it work, you make it happen, and you work hard to succeed in life.
Yeah, love it. Well, hey, I don't think you need my help to connect any dots there. You've definitely done that well. Just like the Jon Collier News Report, right? Like, you got tired, so you got up and you did it, right? Like, yeah, what else do? You get up and you do it.
That's right.
Well, that's amazing. All right, if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song was probably when I was 12. I had just learned, or I guess you could say discovered, classical music. So I would say it would be a piece by Bach called the Air for the G String, was for string orchestra by Johann Sebastian Bach.
That's good. Yeah, definitely. Oh, quality at its best. But John, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, John?
Sure.
John, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Not at this time.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have children?
3.
Wow. Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes, I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Maybe.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It would be less than 8 hours a day.
All right. John, if you had to share with us a statement that represents who you are, your own unique real statement, what would you say that is?
I would say you never know unless you try.
Love it. Just like the farm guy who now has it's amazing. Just like the guy on the farm, right? Who's now doing the news report. And he said it, right? It's out of his comfort zone. He's a broadcaster. If you'll never know unless you try. John, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, I think that you pretty much covered it up. I very much appreciate your time.
You are welcome. I appreciate your time as well. Jon Collier, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com. And for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.